Hello, everybody. Today, I'm excited to talk about probably what I've been waiting for months on end. Operation Barbarossa, or as everyone knows, the invasion of Russia. Now, Stalin, he thought he knew what he was doing. He thought he was it was pretty narcissistic, but after these losses, it would hurt him mentally, and he would go through a lot of enormous stress, which is one of the contributing factors to his early death. But what happened would be enormous. This is the largest human invasion in history. I'm gonna break down what happened right after another factor that we're gonna go over real quick. Another invasion they did was the USSR liked to push around other neighbors. In 1920, they invaded Poland, they failed. In 1938, there was the Winter War. They kind of also failed. They were able to take a bit of land, but I would say it's not really a success. They didn't join communism until after Hitler was defeated. So now we have the largest invasion ever. Let's start this. Now is the time for the invasion. Many of Hitler's generals disagreed and thought this was a bad idea, because this would not only be super costly, but also possibly lead to the fall of everything they've been working on. They just didn't believe they could take on the USSR. Hitler, though, was very, very overconfident and very arrogant. He thought he could be able to beat them, to beat the Russians. Who knew that he would get so close? The invasions would start as this plan. How it went was they expected that they get all their forces through with their ally Romania and Finland. They both come in, they take Leningrad, they take Ukraine, they take the Baltics, right? And then after taking all that, they would be able to push up full on to Moscow with a full-on siege, and they would use the power of blitzkrieg. They would go as fast as possible. Once doing that, they'll be able to make huge encirclements as they're going. Capture Moscow while capturing millions of Russians, and then that would put the end to them, and that would give them the win of all that land and win against the USSR. But unfortunately, things didn't go right. For starters, Finland and Romania weren't really the strongest, so their allies weren't able to push as far as they could have. Luckily, Hitler had and his Nazi army was very powerful. They were able to push through the middle and try to hit the north as much as possible. That was their main priority when they attacked the northern area. Now, even when they got so close to Moscow, it just wasn't enough. Soon they would be being pushed back. And the reason why they were pushed back was the unfortunate reason for them, winter. Winter. This is a huge example. There are numerous examples of invading Russia. Many tried this, and they've all failed. The reason why? The winter. Napoleon failed. The King of Sweden failed. They all failed. Now Hitler is trying to do the impossible. Survive the winter, without anything else of comfort. The only kind of attack that's been so close to beating Russia probably was 1917 with the World War I. That was the closest. The reason why was they weren't doing blitzkrieg. Well, they tried to, but the thing was it was slow, and they couldn't really get deep into the winter areas, and they were a little more cautious. Hitler was the opposite. He tried to go as fast as possible, all full strength at it, and because of that, he led all of his men in the ice. It was freezing, it was cold, and soon they all started to die out. Stalin would take this as an opportunity. At first, he didn't think, Hitler would never invade us. But the thing was, Hitler hated communism. That's kind of one of the reasons why he even started this all. So, he comes in, right? But Stalin was finally able to get his act together, get his army, and push Hitler back, and even go towards Berlin. Now, there's a lot more detail, there's a lot more stuff in depth to everything, but basically that's how I break it down. Stalin was able to get things back together. He took out his stress, and he was able to successfully get them to, stop Hitler. He was able to push Hitler back. But unfortunately, 20 million Russian lives were lost. Now, you might think this is all Hitler's fault. Stalin's strategy was no better. He would basically just send men out. It was a war of attrition, and they would all just die. Many being captured, tortured to death. He even let his own son die. Stalin didn't really care about the Russian lives. He just wanted to win this war. He was freaking out. He didn't think he could do anything. I would say his generals did the work, not really him. He even murdered some of the good generals, which is weird. But that's kind of what happened. Stalin did let his generals have a little more strength later on. They were able to push back. Hitler, the reason why he lost was he wouldn't listen. He was being pushed back, so his next strategy was try and take the south, steal the oil. That also failed due to the decisive battle that probably changed the entire world itself. The siege of Stalingrad, named after Stalin himself. But due to the loss, with his divisions having too much spread out, they're too spread out, right? They were all taken out, and they couldn't make any maneuvers or encirclements. And because of that, they lost the entire war. Stalin wins and makes a new deal that leads to the Cold War. Stalin has now created a giant communist power. Now he's up against the United States. Capitalism versus communism. We'll see. Watch part 5 to see what happened during the Cold War in his time and his death. I'll see you later. Thanks for everything.